The phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon, an unknown local number appearing on my screen as I reviewed quarterly reports in my cubicle. Typically, I'd let calls like that go to voicemail, but something prompted me to answer. "Is this Amelia Chen?" A gruff, yet carefully professional voice inquired. "Yes, who's calling?" I responded. "My name's Frank DeMarco. I own DeMarco's Pawn and Gold on Riverside. I believe I have something that belongs to you, a Rolex Submariner." My heart instantly seized. That's impossible, I thought. I have my father's watch, don't I? I instinctively opened my desk drawer, where I always kept it during work hours. It was empty. "Ma'am, are you still there?" Frank's voice returned. "The watch," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "It's gone." "I was afraid of that," he replied. "Look, can you come down to the shop? There's something you need to see, and I'd rather not discuss it over the phone." I left work immediately, my hands trembling visibly as I drove. Dad's watch, the sole item he had specifically bequeathed to me, had been in that very drawer just yesterday morning. I checked it daily, running my fingers over the meaningful inscription on the back. "To my daughter Amelia. May time always be on your side. Love, Dad." He had worn it every single day throughout my childhood through his demanding construction jobs. During our Sunday dinners, at all my school plays, even during his chemotherapy, when his wrist grew too thin and we had to adjust the band, he pulled me close on his deathbed and pressed it into my palm. "This is yours, Mia, only yours." That pivotal moment occurred 3 years ago, 2 years before Mom married Richard, and 18 months before Richard's son, Tyler, moved in with his grand aspirations and even grander appetite for other people's money. DeMarco's pawn shop was nestled unassumingly between a nail salon and a check cashing establishment, the quintessential strip mall where despair seemed to hold a permanent lease. Frank DeMarco perfectly embodied the stereotype of a pawn shop owner: a thick neck, suspicious eyes, and a gold pinky ring. Yet, his expression upon seeing me was unexpectedly kind. "You resemble him," he simply stated. "Your dad. He used to visit here sometimes, back in the day." He did. Construction guys always have a need for tools. He was one of the good ones. Always repaid his loans. Never tried to pull a fast one. Frank disappeared into the back room, returning moments later with a familiar leather box. "This arrived yesterday," he explained. "The guy claimed it was his to sell." He then placed the box on the counter and opened it. There, nestled inside, was Dad's watch, appearing smaller than I remembered, more vulnerable. "Normally, I don't interrogate sellers too intensely if the merchandise appears legitimate," Frank continued, "but this particular watch... I knew your dad. I knew he would never willingly part with this, so I delved into our system, and your father pawned this watch precisely once, 15 years ago. He repaid it, with interest, within a month." Frank's eyes met mine. "The loan was for $3,000. Records indicate it was right around the period you commenced your studies at that prestigious private high school." My throat constricted. I had gained admission to St. Mary's Academy on an academic scholarship, but there were still inevitable fees: uniforms, textbooks, and activity costs. Dad had simply stated he'd picked up extra overtime work. He had never once mentioned pawning his most cherished possession. "That's when I realized something was amiss with this current sale," Frank explained. "But that's not the primary reason I contacted you." He picked up the watch, turning it over in his hands. While I was examining it, verifying its authenticity, I observed something unique. He pressed a subtle point on the side, and the back popped open in a manner I had never before witnessed. "This isn't standard. Someone modified this watch to create a hidden compartment." Inside rested a remarkably thin piece of paper, folded to an impossibly small size. "I haven't read it," Frank stated. "I figured if your dad concealed it with such care, it was intended for specific eyes." With trembling fingers, I unfolded the paper. Dad's handwriting smaller than usual, but unequivocally his. "Mia, if you're reading this, something has happened to the watch. Check the safe deposit box at First National, box 447. The key is in my toolbox, inside the level. The watch is yours, but what resides in that box is your future. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." That Frank's voice seemed distant, muffled. "Are you all right?" I need to buy the watch back," I stammered. "How much?" Frank shook his head. The guy who brought it in, Talish, maybe mid-20s, kept rambling about his app startup. "Tyler, of course. He took cash for it. $8,500. But here's the thing, I never filed the paperwork. Technically, this transaction hasn't actually occurred yet. What do you mean? I questioned. I mean, I've been in this business for 30 years. I recognize stolen goods when I see them, even when the thief possesses a key to the house. He gently slid the watch across the counter towards me. Take it if anyone inquires. It was never here. I can't just. Your dad once helped me, Frank interrupted. My child required surgery, and I was short on rent. He did a roofing job for me at cost, allowing me to pay him over 6 months. Frank's gruff voice softened perceptibly. The man never mentioned it again. This is my way of settling up. I departed the pawn shop clutching the watch, my mind in a chaotic race. Dad's toolbox resided in the garage. Mom had intended to discard it, but I had adamantly insisted on keeping it. The level he had mentioned was his favorite, an old Stanley that he had taught me to use when I was just 8 years old. But first, pressing questions demanded immediate answers. The truth revealed I discovered Mom in the kitchen with Richard, both hunched over cups of coffee and what appeared to be bank statements. They looked up as I entered, and I instantly perceived the guilt swift and unmistakable before Mom meticulously rearranged her features into an expression of confusion. Mia, what are you doing home? I placed the watch deliberately on the counter between us. Looking for this, I stated. The silence stretched, thick and unyielding, like taffy. Where did you? Mom began. Where did I find the watch you stole? From my desk drawer, I countered. The watch you pawned for Tyler's ridiculous app idea. The watch that was the only thing my father specifically left me. My voice remained steady, calmer than I truly felt. Is that what you were going to ask? Now, Mia, Richard interjected, adopting his familiar mediator's tone. Let's not be dramatic. Tyler needed capital for his business. His third business, I added dryly, after the food truck that never got off the ground and a crypto disaster. This one's different, Mom interjected defensively. He has a partner, a proper business plan. A business plan funded by stealing from me, I clarified. It's not stealing, Richard asserted firmly. We're a family. Family shares resources, like Tyler shares his trust fund with me. I scoffed. Oh wait, he spent that on a Mercedes and a trip to Cabo. That's different. How? I demanded. How is it different? Mom stood, her face hardening because Tyler has potential. He's building something. You just sit on valuable things while people with vision require resources. There it was. The raw, unvarnished truth. She had been dancing around it ever since marrying Richard. I possessed a stable job, a seemingly mundane life, no grand ambitions. Therefore, I deserved less. Tyler, on the other hand, had dreams. Therefore, he deserved everything, including possessions that were not his own. I want the money back, I stated quietly. Every single penny of the $8,500. Richard chuckled dismissively. We don't have it. It's already invested in techno solutions. Then liquidate it, I countered. You can't just. I picked up the Rolex. This was reported stolen this morning. I have the police report number. Either I get the money back or I press charges. You wouldn't, Mom gasped, her voice shrill. Tyler could go to jail. Tyler committed a felony, I retorted. That's not my fault, after everything we've done for you. Mom's voice escalated. We let you live here. I pay rent, I reminded her. Above market rate, actually. We're your family, she cried. Dad was my family. This watch was his legacy to me, and you let your husband and his son steal it like it meant nothing. I left them sputtering, their arguments dissolving into disarray, and headed to the garage. Dad's toolbox rested under his old workbench, covered in a fine layer of dust, but otherwise untouched. The Stanley level was in its customary spot. I had helped him use it countless times, checking if cabinets were straight. Him teaching me that close enough wasn't sufficient when you were constructing something meant to endure. Inside the level's bubble chamber, meticulously wrapped in placid, was a small key. First National Bank was located downtown, in a building Dad had helped renovate back in the 90s. The safe deposit box required to keep mine in the bank's. The manager, an older woman who remembered my father fondly, asked no questions. Box 447 was larger than I had anticipated. Inside, there were 3 items: a manila envelope, a worn, leather journal, and another letter. I read the letter first. Mia, if you're reading this, Then you've discovered my little insurance policy. Your mother knows nothing of this box. I started it when you were born, because even then, I knew you were destined to be special. The envelope contains bondsbearer bonds inherited from my father, now worth approximately $100,000, perhaps more. The journal meticulously details the contracting business, client lists, crucial contacts, and outstanding invoices that were never collected. There's likely another $50,000 there if you choose to pursue it. But here's what I truly want you to understand. I didn't just leave you a watch. I left you time to forge your own path without the burden of financial worry. Time to leave if you need to. Time to simply be yourself, without apology. Your mother is a good woman, but she perceives the world in terms of who deserves what, based on who makes the most noise. You were always quiet, like me. That does not diminish your worth. It makes you observant, intelligent, careful. Utilize this wisely, and remember, the watch is more than just jewelry. It's a constant reminder that time is the only genuine currency we possess. Do not let anyone steal yours. All my love, Dad. P.S. If that boyfriend of yours is still around, the one who borrowed money and never repaid it, dump him. You deserve better. I laughed through my tears. Even the line about the boyfriend, Dad had been spot on about Marcus, whom I had, in fact, dumped 6 months after Dad passed. The bonds were present, exactly as promised. The journal was meticulously filled with Dad's precise records, including several large contractors who still owed him substantial sums. One name immediately leaped out, Richardson Construction, which owed $15,000 for a job Dad had completed just a month before his diagnosis. They remained in business, still prominent. They had likely hoped the debt would vanish with him. They were mistaken. My time, my life I spent that evening at a hotel, meticulously formulating plans. The following morning, I hired a lawyer, Diane Vasquez, who specialized in estate recovery. She examined Dad's journal and smiled, a sharp, knowing smile. Your father maintained impeccable records. This is all actionable. The bonds are clean, and these debts, they don't simply disappear because someone passes away. How long will it take to recover everything? I inquired. The bonds, immediately. The debts. Give me 3 months. I provided her with the retainer and drove back to Mom's house. I could no longer consider it home. They were in the living room with Tyler, who was wildly gesticulating about his app revolutionary integration of blockchain and social media. He was claiming. He paused when he saw me. Amelia, he said, with his practiced charm. Look, about the watch, save it. I cut him off. I turned to Mom and Richard. I'm moving out today. Don't be ridiculous, Mom exclaimed. Over a watch. Over a betrayal. I corrected. Over you choosing them over me, again and again. Over you allowing them to steal from me because you believe I don't deserve what's rightfully mine. Where will you go? Richard asked, likely calculating if they could rent my room for a higher price. That's no longer your concern. Tyler stood. I'll pay you back when the app takes off. No, I countered. He'll pay me back now. $8,500 plus interest. My lawyer will be in touch. Lawyer. Mom went pale. Mia, you can't. I can, I asserted. I am. Dad always said, the best time to stand up for yourself is the moment you realize you're being stood on. I began packing my belongings. Not much, truly. Most of what genuinely mattered fit into 2 suitcases. The watch went back onto my wrist, where it unequivocally belonged. As I loaded my car, Mom emerged one last time. Your father would be ashamed, she said coldly, turning on family like this. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw the woman who had stood by while her new family systematically dismantled my old one, piece by piece. My father, I stated clearly, left me more than you ever knew. And the only thing he'd be ashamed of is that it took me this long to see you for what you truly are. I drove away without looking back. The bonds cashed out at $127,000. They had accrued more interest than Dad had even calculated. Diane successfully recovered $43,000 of the outstanding debts within 6 weeks. Richardson Construction paid in full to circumvent a lawsuit that would have exposed their pattern of stiffing contractors. Tyler's app failed within 3 months. He had squandered the watch money on overpriced office space and logo design, never actually developing the product itself. Richard called, inquiring if I could help out with a small loan. I simply hung up. Mom attempted to reach out through various relatives, portraying me as the ungrateful daughter who had abandoned family over mere material possessions. I sent them all the same concise response: a photo of the police report for the stolen watch, with Tyler's name highlighted. The calls ceased. I used Dad's money to purchase a small house in the neighborhood where he had grown up. Nothing ostentatious, but possessing solid, good bones. As he would have said, I kept his toolbox in my garage, his level still in its place of honor. The watch rests on my nightstand each night, ticking steadily like a heartbeat. Sometimes I open the secret compartment, just to confirm it's real, to confirm that Dad truly had planned ahead, truly had protected me even after he was gone. Time is the only real currency we have. Dad understood that profoundly. He knew that the watch would hold deep significance for me, not for its monetary value, but for what it symbolized: all the precious time we had shared together, all the arduous time he had invested to secure my future. He also knew something else, that eventually someone would attempt to steal it from me. So he meticulously ensured that, even if they took the watch, they could never seize what truly mattered: the time to choose my own life, the time to stand up for myself, the time to realize I had always been worthy of every single second. The watch is mine again, but more importantly, so is my time, and I refuse to waste another minute of it on people who believe they are entitled to it.